Alright, we're back with another Trails character power tier list. This time I'm doing the incredibly niche Trails in the Sky second chapter. To my best knowledge, I don't think there's a tier list out there on the internet, not on YouTube at least, not that I could see. Maybe there is somewhere in the dark web that I haven't seen. Either way, I'm here to make one of my own, so let's jump right to it, shall we? By way of quick disclaimer, I am not going to do characters who are guessed and who have very limited access in this game. I just don't think that's worth it. Although I will do the characters who are kind of limited, but at the very least you have access to for the final dungeon, which is a pretty huge dungeon, so do with that what you will. I'm not going to really be weighting availability into character strength here. The more I think about that, it's just pedantic. It becomes a lot to try to keep track of when I actually put a character's availability into their strength. Unless their availability is absolutely abysmal, then I'll call it out. But if this tier list is to be a useful guide for newcomers, just know that the strongest characters on this list, are the strongest characters on this list, and whoever you have available out of the lot of those, you have available out of the lot of those. I think that's reasonably fair, right? So with that, let's get on to it and power rank some characters. Coming in at 10th place, and who I think is the weakest character in this game, and I don't think this is going to be a hot take actually. For me, it's Josette. You barely have access to her, and again, I said I'm not weighting that, and I'm not, but you do get her in the final dungeon, but man is Josette underwhelming. Her stats, basically across the board, are pretty bad. In addition to that, she's kind of got a balanced orbment line like Estelle's, except hers has some forced earth slots, which you can work with, but it's not great. So I would say she's a mediocre mage, she's a mediocre gunner and attacker. She does have a defense down craft, which is pretty nice, but then again, so does Chloe, and I think Chloe is just a strictly better character than Josette. So you're left with a one-trick pony for whom another character can fill the exact same utility and just do a lot more. Yeah, Josette's the worst character in the game, and in my opinion, she is our one and only D tier character. Coming in next at 9th place and in our C tier, for me, it's Tita. I know I've been hard on Tita for several tier lists in a row now, but I can only speak truth to my heart, man. Tita is basically designed to be a physical attacker, and in that role, she's okay. Her basic attacks have range, they even have a little bit of area. Her attack craft with the smoke grenade does a pretty wide area and can blind, and I know I had a commenter say that this is amazing on trash encounters, on certain chest encounters, etc. And to that, I gotta agree, but for the most part, I believe trash encounters are easy enough that the characters who I consider S tier, they're good in all circumstances, right? They're gonna solve those encounters, in my opinion, better than Tita, while being better against bosses, which is where, in my opinion, the power levels really matter. So Tita's a bad mage, she has pretty bad stats across the board except for her physical attack. She does have a support healing craft, but several characters in this game do. And again, arch users are also amazing healers and supporters, and Tita's not an arch user. So any good mage, many of whom also have support crafts, are just going to wildly outclass Tita in terms of the support they can provide. And then you have attackers like Joshua and Agate, who are going to run miles ahead of her in terms of offensive output. Tita just can't find a lane, in my opinion, and for those reasons, she's 9th place and C tier. Coming in at 8th place and closing out our C tier, and I'm kind of surprised I had to put him this low, but the more I looked at everything and compared these characters, I think this is where I have to put him. For me, it's Zin. I've said this several games in a row, and I'll say it again. I think Zin is fundamentally a very good character. He is a physically very powerful character. Very high strength, very high HP, very high defense, with a full screen taunt. This guy is a tank powerhouse. But in the meta and compared to this cast, I think Zin has a few problems. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I think Zin, above all of the other characters, suffers the most from the fact that Estelle is your protagonist and your forced main character. Because Estelle is a pretty good tank. Estelle has a taunt, no it's not as good as Zin's, and no Estelle is not as tanky as Zin, but she can fill that role pretty well if you want to, and Estelle you're stuck with. Zin's other problems are that he's very slow, and Unlike some of the other attackers like Agate and Joshua, who we'll be talking about later in this list, he just doesn't have some of the bells and whistles that they do to make them very excellent attackers. And I believe in most video games, frankly, and in certainly most Trails games, you don't need to go all in on tanking and defense. So characters who have an offensive slant rather than a defensive slant, by and large, do better, especially in a game where Grail Sphere, which we'll be talking about later, exists. You just don't need a character who's all in on tanking. Still, Zin's very strong, and his self buff is amazing and can make him a very powerful character, but I think the other strikers are going to outdamage and outspeed him, so he's outclassed and closes out our C tier at 8th place. Coming in at the bottom of B tier, and in 7th place, and another character who I was surprised I had to put this low, but after looking everything over, yeah, I think I do. For me, it's Chloe. Now, I know there's some Chloe stans out there, and I know I'm gonna hear from you guys in the comments, but look, she has 3 forced water slots, which means she's a great mage, but she is a mage who is very constrained by her orbment. This isn't the end of the world, but it's annoying. Further, her amazing strength and defense debuff from the first game, which by the way I still think is a very good craft, it got a pretty drastic nerf from first chapter to second chapter, and in the long run, I just think you have better picks for mages like Olivier and Charizard, who are either just way better mages like Olivier and more flexible, or have, in my opinion, better support options like Charizard. Chloe's S-Break is still very good. It's a defensive healing S-Break, but I think Chloe, above all of the other characters on this list, also suffers the presence of Kevin, who I think is the best support in this game, frankly. We'll talk about him later, and does just strongly outclass her. For all of those reasons, she fell all the way down here to 7th place. Coming in at 6th place and closing out the B tier, and I know I take flack for continually ranking this character lower too, but hey, I'm just speaking truth to my heart. It's the protagonist, Estelle. Estelle's not a bad character. She's just a severe all-rounder, and I am not the biggest fan of all-rounders. I've said that on all of my tier lists. I'll say it again. I prefer specialists to generalists. Still, Estelle has some things going for her. She has no forced orbment slots, so despite the fact that she has a quartz line that has 2 lines that are evenly spread, you can still get a pretty good selection of spells on her because you have free reign to customize those slots however you want. This is a perk of hers. I do like her morale buff to buff character strength. I think it's a great buff, and it's great to have on a character like Estelle. I do think Estelle can serve as an auxiliary tank when you really need one, and she's pretty good at that job. I think her crafts are decent. She has a ranged attack, she has an impede, and Wheel of Time is the single hardest hitting craft in the game. Yes, it only hits a single target, but it does a lot of damage, and I respect it for that. So Estelle is your Swiss Army knife. You're stuck with her, you can build her basically any way you want, and she's going to perform well in the battle. She's never going to be quite the specialist that all of these higher tier characters are, but you're stuck with her, and she's going to do just fine. So that's all I can say about her. Okay, we're moving to 5th place, and now at the bottom of A tier, and for me, that goes to Olivier. Everything I said about Olivier in the first chapter tier list extends here. He is an excellent mage, the best mage in this entire game, with by far, in my opinion, the best orbment line in this entire game. It's a single line, 1 forced mirage slot, which is barely a restriction at all. You can get any and all spells that you want access to on Olivier, and that alone turns him into an outstanding support unit. In addition to that, he has a long-range impede attack craft, which is nice. He has a big area of effect attack craft, which is nice. His S-craft kind of sucks, but you know, you can't win all of them. And he has a healing craft that hits a pretty big area in addition to all of that. I don't think he really needs that because he can do all of that through spells if he wanted, but his craft line certainly isn't bad, in addition to the fact that he's going to have your best line of spells out of any character in the game. You put all of that together, I definitely think he's an A-tier character and a very solid pick if you wanted to use him. Coming in now at 4th place and closing out the A tier, and I've defended this character a lot because the community seems to disagree with me on this. I don't care. I'm sticking to my guns. I'm holding my ground here. I think it's Charizard. Charizard is a very good mage with a pretty good orbment line. You're going to be able to access some very good spells through her, and she's going to use them quite effectively. But in addition to all of that, her Heaven's Kiss in this game, just like the first chapter, it only costs her 20 CP, and if you can set up your team right, you are going to get so much turn economy out of Charizard, it's completely crazy. Now, if you can't get the formation right, this loses value drastically, but no matter what, Chara's a good mage with good all-around stats, she's pretty fast, and yeah, turn economy, in my opinion, is king. So Chara definitely earns herself 4th place in my opinion. Coming on the bottom of S tier and at 3rd place, for me, it's Kevin. Kevin is just an insane support unit. Grail Sphere is a support S-craft that basically solves encounters on its own. If you rip that thing with 200 CP, every character in your party has a 2-hit shield, which just gives you more time than you should ever need to set up and just control the fight and dominate it to your advantage. And in addition to all of that, Kevin has an amazing support craft line. He has a nice area of effect strong heal, and he even has an area of effect CP battery for your strikers. And on top of that, he's an outstanding mage with a very flexible orbment line. It's almost a perfectly straight line with one forced time slot, which is no big deal at all. Kevin's going to access spells with the best of them and cast them with the best of them while providing unmatched support for your party. I definitely think he's an S tier character and deserves his spot this high on the list. Coming in 2nd place, for me, it's Agate. Agate had a huge glow up from first chapter because his rage ability gives him all the CP he needs to rip his S-craft every single time he rages. And that alone turns Agate into a striking monster. But if that wasn't enough for you, all of his attack crafts are pretty good. Now, I will say some of them have pretty high delay, but his Spiral Edge drastically delays the enemy. His Dragoona Edge is a big line area of effect. He can just devastate your enemies with overwhelming physical offense. He can S-craft pretty much every turn, and Dragon Dive, when he gets it, is one of the best S-crafts in the entire game. Hits the whole screen for devastating damage, and Agate has the strength to back it up. I would say his only drawback is that he is going to require healing support, but man is he worth it, because the amount of damage he's going to output every turn is just insane. Get this guy's strength as high as you can get it, get his speed as high as you can get it, and watch the fireworks. Yeah, I think he's the 2nd best character in the game, and you, in this game, can have access to him for basically the entire game. Very strong unit. Okay, number 1. If you guys are sick of seeing Joshua win my tier lists, rest assured, this is the last time, spoiler alert, he's ever going to. But for my 3rd tier list in a row, I think Joshua is the strongest character in the game. And it's for the same reasons that he's been the strongest character in the previous tier lists. He's the fastest character in the game, and turn economy is everything. And in addition to all of that, some of Joshua's crafts, I should say many of them, have lower than average delay, which just hikes his turn economy into greater limits. In addition to that, he has 2 very powerful delay crafts, and in these early Trails games, many enemies are susceptible to being delayed, so Joshua can just lock them down with overwhelming physical offense. Dual Strike is still the best single target hitting regular craft in the entire game, so it's very reliable. Cloak and Dagger has a very low delay, and in addition to all of that, Joshua is still a very competent mage. He is kind of locked to mostly focusing on time magic, but that is no problem at all. Time has some outstanding attack spells, and Joshua will use them to devastating effect. So this guy can do anything you want him to do. For the most part, he's mostly offensive, but he's going to do it either striking the enemy, casting spells, and all while being a very fast unit. I think Joshua, for the last time, earns himself the top of our S tier. Alright guys, this is my character power ranking for Trails in the Sky SC. How do you think I did? Who do you think I overrated? Who did I underrate? As always, I look forward to hearing about that in the comments. I know that these are super niche, but I still enjoy doing them. Coming up next is Trails the Third. I'm actually really looking forward to doing that one, because there's a reasonably sizable cast that you get access to there. So that's going to be a blast, and I hope you join me there. Otherwise, this is Nick BRPG. If you like this video, consider giving me a like and a sub. I'm a brand new YouTuber, and all the support means the world to me. Thank you so much, guys. I'll catch you in the next one.